The story begins with a guy named Kai monitoring the graveyard. His friend Ashran asks if he's finished yet, but a girl named Saki, who is with them, remarks that Kai always monitors the graveyard for 300 seconds. Ashran, impatient, wonders if they can be done with it already. Kai firmly responds that they can't rush this. He explains that there are 5 races in their world: mythical beasts, spirits, celestials, demons, and humans. A war once erupted between these races, and they can't risk such a catastrophe happening again. As part of the Urza Federation, they are obligated to monitor this graveyard where demons are sealed. Kai observes that there are no abnormalities in the graveyard, prompting Ashran to comment that Kai is always too serious. Saki, however, is unperturbed, noting that Kai's diligence allows them to take it easy. The 3 of them then drive away. Ashran asks if a sealed demon has ever escaped in the past century. Kai reassures him that it has never happened, emphasizing their duty as part of the Humanity Aegis Agency to keep it that way. Ashran sarcastically points out that their serious supervision of this graveyard won't matter if others aren't watching the remaining 4 graveyards diligently. Kai insists that everyone is taking their responsibilities seriously, and he grimly states that a demon escape would be catastrophic. Ashran agrees, and Saki tries to lighten the mood by reminding them that the world is currently at peace. Kai acknowledges this, but remains dedicated to maintaining that peace. The scene then shifts to the city of Vishal, where Kai and Ashran are training to fight a mythical beast using a machine doll shaped like a dragon. Despite the system warning Kai that he isn't strong enough to face the monster, he persists. His attack fails to harm the beast, and it nearly defeats him until Saki halts the training session just in time. She cautions Kai not to push himself too hard or risk injury. Kai argues that training without taking risks is pointless. Saki compliments him, suggesting that if he had been born during the Great War of the 5 Races, his name might have gone down in history like their hero. They both gaze at a portrait of Sid the Prophet. Kai humbly asserts that he isn't cut out for such greatness. Saki shudders at the thought of the heroes of the other races being around today, unable to imagine a human winning against them. Kai reassures her that they have nothing to fear, as Sid the Prophet defeats all 4 heroes with the shining sword given to him by the prophetic god, Arsla Salaka. Saki expresses skepticism about the legend of Sid the Prophet, noting the lack of photos or videos compared to the heroes of the other races. Kai muses that it would indeed be great if someone like Sid existed. Saki then wakes Ashran, who was napping after his training session, and asks both of them what they plan to do about Jean's promotion celebration. Ashran suggests giving Jean a bouquet of flowers, but Saki disagrees. She explains that Jean, who is transferring to the headquarters of the royal capital of Urzak, and is the youngest ever to be selected at just 17, will surely receive plenty of bouquets from everyone else. They should strive to get her something different. Kai then receives a text from Jean asking him to meet her at 10 the next morning, and to keep it a secret from Saki and Ashran. Saki and Ashran also see the text and teasingly wonder if Kai and Jean are planning something naughty. Kai denies their claims and goes out for a run to get away from them. The next morning, he waits for Jean, who arrives punctually, surprising him as she is usually late by at least an hour. She retorts that being on time is the least she can do since she will be transferring to Urzak next week. Noticing his flashy outfit, she comments on it, and Kai explains that he came straight after his morning training. Jean remarks that Kai might be the only person unfazed about going shopping with her. Kai wonders if she wants to go shopping with someone else, only to realize she is being sarcastic. They begin browsing shops, and Kai learns that Jean wants to buy presents for Ashran and Saki, as this might be the last time she sees them before her transfer. Kai thinks she is exaggerating since her transfer will only last for 2 years, and she will be back after that. However, Jean points out that by then, Saki and Ashran will have completed their military service and become civilians. she and Kai will be the only ones remaining in the Humanity Aegis Agency, and this thought saddens her. Kai tells her not to be so gloomy, reminding her that her goal is to surpass her father, the Ursa headquarters chief. Jean thanks him for the confidence boost, and they continue their shopping trip, eventually finding suitable presents. At a red light, Jean recalls how Kai once wandered into the demon graveyard when he was just 10 years old. Kai confirms this, explaining it happened during an inspection trip with her father. Jean remembers being surprised when Kai told her he saw Sid's sword there. Kai admits he no longer talks about it because no one would believe him. Jean thinks that's when Kai started feeling it was his duty to ensure demons don't emerge from the graveyard. Kai still feels this responsibility, and Jean acknowledges that this is why he will still be in the Humanity Aegis Agency in 2 years. As they cross the road, Jean asks Kai if he can predict where they will be in the future. Kai struggles to answer, and just then, he notices the world around him warping. He calls out to Jean, but she responds normally, making him realize that only he can see the changes. He panics as he sees something like a black hole sucking up the entire world except for him. A voice says the world is being overridden, and he finds himself in a destroyed version of the city. Confused, he encounters a demon. The demon attacks him with magic, but he blocks it using his weapon case. He manages to grab his gun sword and counters the demon's attack with modified elven bullets, explaining they were created using elven magic. The demon then attacks with a fire spell, but Kai dodges and takes it out with another bullet at close range, a modified Drake bullet that produces mythical beast breath. Kai realizes this is his first time fighting a demon and is relieved he can move as well as he does in training, confident he can handle demons. Another demon arrives, astonished that a human defeated a demon. Kai notices this demon is adept at speaking the human language. The demon explains that it's more effective to command their slaves using their own language. Kai is confused by this, and just as the demon tries to attack, Saki uses a flash bomb, and she and Ashran drive away after rescuing Kai. Saki reports the incident to her superiors and asks Kai where he is from. Kai is shocked to see her and notices she knows his name, but she doesn't remember him. He tries to jog her memory, but it doesn't work. He also realizes Ashran doesn't remember him. They wonder if Kai is still rattled by the demon attack. Devastated, Kai tells them they were in the same unit in the Humanity Aegis Agency, but they don't know what that is. They inform him they are soldiers of the Resistance, and he is surprised to find out he has never heard of them. Saki elaborates that they are part of the human rebel army, which leaves Kai completely bewildered. He asks them to explain more about this world, and Saki explains that there was a great war of the 5 races 30 years ago, and humanity lost. Cities around the world were taken over by the other 4 races, and humans are now barely surviving by running and hiding. Kai inquires if this destroyed city is Vishal, and they are relieved to see that at least he knows the city's name. As they continue on foot, Ashran tells him that the 4 races are currently fighting over each other's territories. The Urza Federation was taken over by demons, forcing them to abandon their cities and flee. They show Kai an underground city called Mio Vishal, explaining that they remodeled the intact underground spaces to protect humans and continue their resistance against the other races. Kai wonders why humanity lost the war in the first place, and Saki and Ashran think it's obvious. The other races are far more powerful. Each race also has a leader they refer to as heroes. When Kai asks about Sid the Prophet, they don't recognize the name. Kai tells them that Sid is supposed to be a human hero who defeated the other 4 heroes, but Ashran points out that they wouldn't be living like this if someone like that existed. They notice the arrival of the main core, which confuses Kai. Ashran explains that many human cities like Neo Vishal exist, each with a resistance garrison overseen by the main core. The commander of the resistance is a savior of the Urza Federation's people, and Kai is stunned to see that it's Jean. But in this world, Jean is a man. They report to Jean, who inquires about Kai. They explain that they secured Kai on the surface and that his memories are a bit hazy. Kai is shocked to see Jean as a man and tries to tell him about their recent shopping trip. But Jean has no idea what he's talking about. Kai is devastated that Jean doesn't remember him. When he tries to ask Jean why he is dressed as a man, this surprises Jean. Kai approaches, insisting it was her dream to surpass her father as a daughter, but a soldier from the main corps stops him. Jean and the others leave, and Saki and Ashran suggest Kai rest as he seems unwell. At night, Kai researches this world, noticing it is similar to his own, but there are no records of him or Sid the Prophet. He wonders if this is a world that lost the war because Sid didn't exist, but he notices that the graveyards are still around. The next morning, he asks Saki and Ashran about the graveyards, but they've never heard of them. Kai asks to borrow Ashran's car, and Ashran hands him the keys reflexively. Saki wonders what he's doing, but he drives to the graveyard. On the way, he notices demons closely monitoring urban areas. At the graveyard, he sees that the seal is open. He heads inside, thinking that Sid's shining sword might be there, and he finds the sword. Realizing the legends were true, he draws the sword. He then hears a voice instructing him not to relinquish the sword, called the code holder, as it is also the world coordinate key. A door opens in midair, and Kai steps through. He finds himself in a place resembling heaven and wonders where he is. He sees an altar with a chained girl on it. Unsure if she is an angel or a demon, he draws his sword. The girl, crying, asks him to release her, surprising Kai that she would seek help from a human. Considering that humans and the other races are locked in war, he is confused about what is happening. Despite the dire situation, Kai hesitates to free a demon, but he can't just abandon her either. Hoping she won't attack, he attempts to break her chains with his blade, but nothing happens. He then tries his rifle, but even a shot fails to cause any damage. Kai considers using the sword he found in the cemetery. Unintentionally, Sid's weapon manifests, clearly indicating it's the solution. With a simple strike, the chains shatter, freeing the prisoner. Rin, regaining consciousness, pulls away from Kai's lap and angrily shouts, demanding Vanessa's return and claiming she hasn't lost. Ignoring Kai, Rin asserts she won't be defeated by a mere lackey demon and attacks. Dodging the first spell, Kai sees a massive energy wave forming when the system's voice prompts him to cut off the fate of death. Using his blade, the young human slashes the spell in half, leaving Rin incredulous. Rin questions how a weak demon could destroy her attack, so Kai turns his back to show he is human, with neither wings nor a tail. Realizing her mistake, Rin apologizes for her behavior, explaining that her hatred for demons makes her impulsive. When Kai asks about her species, Rin avoids the question and asks to leave it aside. Accepting this, Kai asks where they are, but Rin herself doesn't know, having ended up there after fighting Vanessa. Alarmed, Kai confirms if she's referring to the Dark Empress and heroine of demons, as that is no ordinary opponent. Rin affirms Vanessa's capability of devastating entire demon armies, but emphasizes what she witnessed from Kai. He was about to explain the sword's role when a robotic woman announces the awakening of a singular destiny entity, posing a gigantic threat to the New World Order. The robot initiates sealing through last risers and attacks Kai and Rin with all its might. As the structure around them shatters, they try to evade, but the machine uses a portal to grab Rin, initiating Code Zero, which conjures magical orbs that injure her. Seeing this, Kai reacts, using Sid's sword to cut the metallic claw holding Rin. The machine is stunned by the forbidden sword, and while Rin sees Sid's image reflected in Kai, he teleports them both to a distant location. Safe, Rin confesses her fear with a strong hug, which Kai reciprocates. Analyzing their situation, he asks if Rin has any companions. She has none, explaining it's the first time someone has done something like this for her. Celestial spirits and beasts rejected her, and demons called her an abomination. This led her to duel their leader, Vanessa. Similarly, Kai feels isolated, as no one remembers him in this world. He believed humans won the Great War of the Five Races, but now sees his city in ruins. Rin didn't know this, noting that humans were winning after a hero's appearance before her fight with Vanessa. Kai asks if she knows Sid, but she doesn't. Still, he is content to share a story about Sid, calling Rin his companion, a term that strengthens their bond in this dark universe. As they begin their journey, Rin faints, and Kai carries her on his shoulder. They need to pass through the city, and although Rin generally distrusts humans, she trusts Kai. Later, lying in bed, Kai feels the weight of the day's events. On their way to the city, Rin panicked in the car. Although she can hide her wings, her behavior draws attention. Hearing her sing in the shower, Kai is surprised other races know how to sing. Suddenly, she runs out in a towel, alerting him that the water stopped flowing. She finds it unfair humans have hot water, while she bathed in cold rivers and lakes. Kai's bed is soft, unlike the underbrush and rocks she slept on. However, now this human city is in ruins, as Kai said. He finds it hard to believe the historical outcome of the Great War has reversed. Rin bets they will find a way out and return to their world. For now, hope is all they have. As they sleep, Rin enjoys a warm bed for the first time, while Kai tries to rest on the floor. However, his rest is interrupted when Rin senses a strong magical presence nearby, firmly stating a demon is close. The city's sound system announces an enemy attack, urging civilians to evacuate. Stepping into the street, Kai laments that one of humanity's last refuges is in danger, believing his race is cornered with no savior. But after yesterday's events, he believes he might be the only person capable of wielding the forbidden sword like Sid. Armed with this trump card, he heads into battle. Meanwhile, Saki and Asherin are already on the front lines, battling fiercely. The creature's tough armor seems impenetrable. Asherin urgently asks Saki to grab the machine gun, but on her way, she is nearly killed by an enemy. Kai appears just in time to save her, striking the demon hard and advising her to use water against them. When the opponents absorb water, their stone bodies become heavy, preventing them from flying. With this tactic, it's just a matter of bombing the enemies until they turn to ashes. Rin seems about to meet her end, but Kai intervenes again, wielding Sid's sword to save her. Kai appears to be operating at a much higher level than he ever imagined, and this sudden power is what has balanced the forces between the two races so far. With Rin's assistance, they manage to defeat the last opponent. Rin's extraordinary abilities make Kai realize she could indeed face Vanessa. Despite their victory, part of the city is devastated, with structures housing the population in flames. Terrified, Saki and Asherin are amazed by Kai's feats. He reveals he came from a world where humans won this conflict, and their advanced fighting style and special ammunition played a significant role in securing that victory. Before they can question his story further, Asherin receives an urgent message from the surveillance cameras. 2 demon scouts have escaped. Without delay, he rushes to alert headquarters, fearing the worst. The demons now know the location of their refuge and will return with more forces next time. Saki asks Kai to accompany them to HQ, believing Jean could use his strength in the war. He agrees. On the way, Kai asks if the rebel army HQ of the Urza Federation is in the ruined royal capital, but Asherin explains that the demons would never suspect humans are hiding there. Saki adds that the idea came from Jean's father, the former commander who retired due to an injury 2 years ago, passing the title to his son. At headquarters, the officers are incredulous about Kai and Rin coming from an alternate world where the war was won. Jean wants to understand the connection between Kai and this world, noting how he spoke to her as if he knew her. Kai explains they were childhood friends, and Jean always aspired to be like Og and Jur. Hearing these names, Jean is shocked and ends the meeting abruptly. Later that night, Phelan knocks on Kai's door, informing him that the commander wants to see him. Upon arrival, Kai finds his friend without her male disguise. She reveals that only Phelan and a few veteran directors know she is a woman. Jean is surprised that Kai knows her father and grandfather's nicknames, Og and Jur. Despite her skepticism, she considers the possibility that Kai is telling the truth and asks for his help to contact the other 5 resistance centers to encircle the demons targeting Neo-Visual Refuge. Rin argues that such a mission would provoke the demons further, leading to harsher retaliation. But Jean sees no other option. Kai suggests they attack the royal capital and target the Dark Empress Vanessa. The commander thinks he is crazy, reminding him that Vanessa decimated the entire capital defense army 30 years ago. In response, Kai mentions Sid's story, who single-handedly defeated the demon heroine, and believes he can do the same. The commander, skeptical, asks why Kai is so willing to risk his life. He explains that seeing Asherin and Saki risking their lives in battle made him realize he couldn't return to his original world, knowing he left them to die in this one. Kai devises a plan based on the observation that demons are more concerned with other races than with humans. Most of their forces are stationed near the borders, leaving probably only about 10% in the royal capital. He suggests that while he fights Vanessa, the rebel army keeps these 10% occupied. Jean agrees they can hold the enemies for a while, but fears most of her troops will die before reaching the palace. Phelan then suggests they invade from underground, mentioning a subterranean railway line behind the palace that the royal family used. Surprised, Jean asks why she wasn't informed about this before. Phelan explains that Jean's father didn't want her to risk herself, so he asked his subordinates to omit this strategy. With this new information, the commander announces a meeting to finally retake the Urza Federation. As the preparations for the attack near completion, Rin reflects on her deep-seated hatred for demons. She despises them for being deceitful spirits, bizarre mythical beasts, barbaric celestials, stubborn humans, and above all, weak. But most of all, she hates herself for being a mix of all these things. Despite this, she acknowledges that Kai has never feared her and has even embraced her, something she had never experienced before. She is accustomed to receiving only hatred. Because of this, Rin deeply wishes that this human does not die. As the battle vehicles depart, the rebel army of the Urza Federation heads toward the government palace through an underground passage to launch their offensive. While the main group keeps the demons occupied, Saki and her team must free the captives in the basement and take down Vanessa. At the top of the hierarchy, Jean gives the orders, and Saki sees in her leader the chance for victory to be real. Her only concern is that she will be in the group facing the demon heroine head-on. In a spontaneous outburst, she questions whether the 4 members in the armored vehicle will be able to complete such a difficult mission. Kai emphasizes that the priority is to reach Vanessa as quickly as possible and hold out until reinforcements arrive, not to storm the palace like Rambo and take out the enemy leader with a bow and arrow. Moreover, Kai has already demonstrated his strength in conflict and trusts only Saki and Asherin to accompany him on this mission. Saki doesn't seem any calmer hearing this, so Rin pats her head to try to make a difference. Surprised, Saki calms down. The entity points out that she is also powerful enough to face enemy forces, although Vanessa is a formidable opponent. If the Empress of Darkness insists, Rin is prepared to self-destruct and take the demon along. Unfortunately, this last part doesn't seem to have made Saki any calmer. Similarly, Asherin confesses to being worried since no one knows what the palace will be like when they arrive, especially with the rebels moving with so many people, making it easier for them to be discovered by the enemies. Regarding this, Kai reminds them that demons are sensitive to magic, and that humans do not possess magical power, which could camouflage the men until they reach the target location. Ashran calms down a bit at this information and adds that all the rebels will be remembered forever because of this mission, perhaps even well rewarded. Hearing this, Kai comments that this Ashran is stronger than the one from his original world, and Ashran questions if that is some kind of compliment. Soon, upon reaching the end of the underground passage, Jean gathers all the comrades of the rebel army and thanks them for the trust placed in their leader. The commander emphasizes the bravery and loyalty of these soldiers, who are humanity's last hope, and acknowledges that many must feel insecure with a little time for preparation for this attack. However, she reminds them that the Urza Federation's resistance has been forged through years of intense battles against the domination of demons, leaving each one of them with war scars. These scars are evidence that only seasoned soldiers are on this front line, and this hardened spirit is the key to freeing humans from the clutches of darkness. With that said, the soldiers raise their weapons and let out a battle cry. After blowing up the exit of the underground passage, they reach the surface and see the government palace surrounded by demonic forces. The first act of defense is to invoke a freezing spell, but Kai knows this ability and successfully dispels it. Then he shoots the demon and gets close enough to tear its skin with his sword. Finally, a shot explodes the enemy. As soon as the first demon is taken down, more emerge to protect the palace, so the jewel of the Urza Federation fires the lightning bullet to take down several at once. In disbelief at what he saw, Ashran questions if it was Kai responsible for this massacre. Kai explains that he used anti-group ammunition produced in his world. Then the mysterious stranger asks Rin to sense Vanessa's presence. As soon as the entity points to the possible location of the Empress of Darkness, Kai announces that he will start the search from the highest floor. To avoid attracting too much attention, Jean plans to invade the palace using the emergency stairs on the south side with her team, while Group 1 will stand guard at the entrance to prevent the demons from entering the building. Group 2 will be responsible for rescuing the prisoners in the basement. During the building invasion, Phelan finds it strange that Kai claims the lightning bullet is a projectile when he didn't even pull any trigger. But the matter dies without her being able to delve into this suspicion, as the objective demands all the combatants' attention. As they climb the stairs, Rin identifies an imp, a race of small demons that summon large-scale demons. Without delay, a huge creature appears on the staircase and grabs one of the rebels, but Phelan is faster and cuts the beast's fingers. After that, she orders everyone to continue climbing, while she holds off the demon. At the palace entrance, Group 1 shoots the attackers as best they can while Group 2 reaches the prisoners in the basement. The main team continues on their way with the commander in the lead until she is hit by an electric trap that makes all the soldiers apprehensive. However, when the smoke clears, Jean proceeds unharmed and asks everyone to calm down as she is protected by elven engineering while wearing the holy light suit. Beside the leader, a huge demon approaches, so she orders Kai and his unit to go after Vanessa while she fights the opponent with her men. Known as the Knight of the Holy Light, Jean brandishes her blade before the opponent. Further ahead, Kai's group dons armbands crafted from Rin's magic, which conceal their presence. As they continue on their way, they encounter a gigantic creature that makes Saki's rifle tremble. Rin tries to calm her companion's anxiety to prevent any noise. Protected by a barrier invisible to the demon, the humans breathe a sigh of relief as the beast passes without detecting the intruders. Everyone exhales in relief and heads to one of the palace rooms where the circuit breakers are located. Ashran declares that if Kai and Rin fail to defeat Vanessa, he and Saki will cut all the lights, ensuring everyone's escape. However, shortly after Kai and Rin continue their journey, the palace alarm is triggered despite Rin's barrier still functioning, leading Kai to suspect that the building's infrared sensors are still active. They pick up the pace, encountering a demon who expresses disgust at Rin's wings, calling them a chaotic and unpleasant sight. Taking advantage of the demon's tendency to talk, Kai asks if he is the one maintaining the surveillance system. but the monster never directly answers what the human wants to know. Instead, he provokes them by saying that Vanessa is pleased with this invasion and curious to know why the humans have decided to kill themselves. Not falling for the provocation, Kai tries to use the opportunity to ask if the demon can lead them to their heroine, but the monster doesn't want to miss the chance to have fun with the humans before him. With that, the creature and his subordinates summon fireballs, prompting Rin to hurry and grab Kai, dodging the flames with her wings. After escaping the first barrage, Rin throws Kai to the ground and isolates him from the battle with an ice wall so he can continue his path toward Vanessa. The demons, smelling angelic, elven, dwarven, spirit, and dragon scents on Rin, along with a demonic odor, are confused and ask what she is. Even Rin doesn't know. All she knows at this moment is that she hates these hideous creatures. Meanwhile, Kai finds a huge gate and enters the throne room, where Vanessa welcomes the human. In front of her, Kai can't help but tremble slightly. At the same time, Jean faces the gigantic demon, but struggles to penetrate the opponent's armor. She unlocks her weapon's form, revealing the moon longbow, finally piercing the enemy's armor with an arrow. Nearly dead, the demon observes that the intense elven magic Jean is using gradually consumes her life, as humans are not prepared to handle this kind of influence. For this reason, the demon believes the commander has chosen death. Jean drives her sword into the demon's head and confirms that she has chosen to die, because only then will humanity be able to win this war. Suddenly, another enemy attacks her from behind, but Phelan returns in time to repel the threat. The three-headed hellhound rises again and notes that he has heard of Dragonar, a human who fights using a dragon's fang as a weapon, just like Phelan. Meanwhile, Vanessa asks if Kai is not going to put down his weapon, as many others did upon discovering that the demon leader is a succubus. That way, she could lie with him to pass the time. Kai refuses the proposal and states that the nature of the demon is madness driven by violence. Vanessa laughs and acknowledges that the boy reacted well, as many become her slaves with just a simple charm like this. She then asks if the human present is the rebel commander wearing the elven suit, but Kai claims he is just an outsider from a world where Vanessa was defeated. Though skeptical, the Empress asks who managed to bring her down in that situation. Kai says it was the humans faced with infinitely more dangerous threats. Vanessa laughs even more upon hearing that she died at the hands of a human. Then Kai explains that it wasn't just any human, but the prophet Sid. Hearing this name, Vanessa loses all her grace, as it reminds her of many unpleasant things like the code holder and the world reincarnation. She changes her stance and attacks the human with magic, but Kai breaks the spell with little difficulty, leaving Vanessa incredulous. Without giving her a chance to think, Kai counterattacks with his sword and slashes her chest, but it was just a succubus illusion. The real Empress of Darkness nearly blows him up from behind. Vanessa praises Kai's ability to dodge and his weapon, which besides nullifying magic, unleashes an attack similar to a dragon's breath. This makes her start to believe that he really came from another world. More cautious, she invokes Glory, a purgatory in the form of flames that pulverizes the wall behind Kai, but he manages to escape. Irritated, she promises to end the fight by conjuring the chaos explosion, which shatters the entire building's floor in a devastating blast, shaking every part of the structure. Sovereign in the skies, Vanessa assumes there is no being capable of escaping this attack, unless it is a hero of the 5 races. However, Kai Sakura Vento remains standing before her. Frightened, Kai imagines that Sid's sword saved him once again. Then, Rin arrives, battered and with several wounds, fearing that Kai had died. Suddenly, a portal opens in the sky, and metallic claws hold Vanessa. A metallic voice announces that it detected unexpected fluctuations in the demon heroine after Vanessa heard the word Sid. For this reason, the robot initiates an excision by Last Riser to erase Vanessa's code from the world. But the Empress of Darkness reacts with the ability to be glorious. According to the succubus, she will not be defeated by Amir Alria Hound. Taking tremendous damage, the robot retreats back to the portal, leaving Kai and Rin terrified by the strength the demon heroine demonstrated. Rin notes that Vanessa has always been strong, but the one from the other world was not as terrifying as this one. Irritated, Vanessa notices that some wounds on her body are not healing, but that doesn't change the fact that she is going to crush the two opponents before her. Rin thought the fight was a lost cause and encased herself and Vanessa in a barrier. She urged Kai to escape while she held Vanessa back, but he hesitated. Vanessa recognized the barrier of the spirit race and taunted Rin, saying it was too weak to contain her. With a single effort, Vanessa shattered the barrier, sending Rin flying. Vanessa then tried to attack Rin, but Kai intervened, drawing her ire. Vanessa's explosion attack hurled Kai against a wall, leaving him motionless and bleeding. Believing him dead, Rin despaired as Vanessa mocked her, asking what she would do now that her friend was gone. Rising with dark energy surrounding her, Rin's wounds began to heal. She declared she would not forgive Vanessa. Vanessa, taken aback, watched as Rin transformed into a chaotic being, a blend of all 5 races. Rin launched a furious assault, landing powerful punches. Vanessa realized this was Rin's true form and managed to stop her punches, noting Rin's ridiculous power and appearance. Vanessa suggested that Rin might have saved Kai if she had revealed her true power earlier, understanding her fear of showing her real self to a human. Humans, after all, feared or hated other races. Vanessa admired Rin's radiant form as a demon, but pointed out it made her less human. Rin, enraged, acknowledged the truth in Vanessa's words. Vanessa blamed Rin for Kai's death, saying her hesitation led to this outcome. Rin agreed, but asserted it no longer mattered since Kai was dead. She vowed to take Vanessa down with her, invoking a life-draining curse. Droplets began to fall from both their bodies, representing their life forces. Vanessa was shocked, but the curse was cancelled before it could kill her. Rin was confused, and Vanessa explained that curses depend on the caster's magical power. This was her territory, prepared to weaken intruders' magic, affecting Rin threefold due to her mixed heritage. Vanessa commended Rin for lasting so long and wondered why such an abomination existed. In her final moments, Rin apologized to Kai, saying she had tried her best. Vanessa launched a fire spell at Rin, but Kai, miraculously alive, saved her. Both Rin and Vanessa were astonished. Kai told Rin he would be dead if not for her efforts to keep Vanessa occupied. Rin, in disbelief, realized it wasn't a dream because Kai was warm. Vanessa demanded to know how he survived her explosion. Kai credited the code holder and revealed he used a light sword to block the spell. Kai, taking a fighting stance, faced Vanessa, who mocked him, calling him trash for surviving her attacks by fluke. Kai declared he had to defeat her, out of determination and gratitude for Rin's sacrifice. Vanessa, with a creepy smile, questioned if he had a plan, knowing humans often proclaimed their strength and resolve but died too soon to prove anything. She acknowledged the heroes of other races, but dismissed humans as hero-less. Kai said he had no desire to be a hero, but would show her what he could do. He vowed to demonstrate the human spirit, representing humanity in this fight. Vanessa, skeptical, cast an earth spell, which Kai destroyed with the code holder. She appreciated his effort and prepared a fire spell. Kai signaled Ashran to turn off the lights, plunging the room into darkness. Vanessa couldn't locate Kai, as humans lacked magical energy. Seeing the light sword, she aimed her spell, only to find Rin holding the sword, while Kai was behind her. Kai thought about the decade of rigorous training that had led him to this pivotal moment. With a powerful strike, he sent Vanessa flying. Rin quickly handed him his sword, and with it, he managed to defeat her. Vanessa, accepting her defeat, conceded their capital back to him. In her final moments, Rin noticed something unusual about her, and Vanessa began to recall the prophecy of Sid the Prophet and the concept of world reincarnation. As her memories flooded back, Kai was puzzled and asked what she was talking about. Vanessa explained that the world had been rewritten, a phenomenon known as world reincarnation. Kai wondered if Sid had foreseen this, and Vanessa revealed that someone had indeed caused the world to be rewritten. She urged Kai to find that person, suggesting it might be one of the three heroes. Vanessa recounted how Sid had foreseen the strange occurrences and entrusted her with his sword, hiding it away. She explained that the code holder was the key to correcting the world's alteration. Kai struggled to grasp this, as Vanessa and Sid were supposed to be enemies, with records of them fighting in the Great War. Vanessa acknowledged their past conflicts, but hinted at unknown events. She spoke of a forbidden code, the Zero Code, a troublesome magic hidden in the world. She commended Kai for his clever strategy and use of darkness, embodying the human spirit. Frustrated by her loss, Vanessa vowed to return as a succubus and love him to tears before disappearing. Exhausted, Kai fell to his knees, relieved to have defeated the demon hero. The next day, a radio broadcast announced the rebel army's victory in retaking Urza, their capital, and defeating the demon hero. Rebel forces worldwide celebrated the news. In Urza, soldiers rested after the battle, while Kai and Rin conversed on the headquarters' top floor. Kai was still reeling from the revelation that the entire world had changed, and they were unaffected. Rin expressed her desire to return things to how they were, finding the altered world frightening. Kai agreed. Jean arrived, thanking them for their help in reclaiming the capital. Noticing Kai's somber mood, she reassured him, stating that with their help, humans could achieve much more. She planned to rebuild the city even better than it was 30 years ago, delegating the reconstruction to executives who knew its prime. Rin asked if Jean would put down her sword now that the demons were gone. Jean revealed her plan to set sail and assist rebel groups in the Io Federation, Uluin Federation, and Schultz Federation, which were occupied by celestials, spirits, and mythical beasts, respectively. She aimed to unite the rebel forces for a large-scale operation. Fa Lin mentioned talks of a united front, spurred by the news of the hero's defeat. Jean requested Kai and Rin to join their cause, believing their presence would inspire others. She pledged to command the soldiers and provide utmost support, even becoming the greatest commander if necessary. Kai, initially stunned, agreed to fight alongside them to end the war of the 5 races. He mentioned that the Jean he knew had a childish side, which she found hard to believe. Kai promised to share more about his world one day and agreed to accompany her on her journey, already planning to ask her to join them. Jean and Rin agreed to help end the war together. Jean addressed her soldiers, who were incredulous about recapturing the capital. She assured them it was real and prepared for the busy days ahead, planning a strategy meeting. Kai resolved to end the war and find the person behind the world's reincarnation, determined to restore things to how they were. Rin, seeing a shadow of Sid in him, agreed. Rin dreams of the time she was fleeing from the monster we saw earlier, and we see that Sid was helping her back then, telling her something important. She then wakes up, finding herself in a car on the way to the Io Federation. Ashrin can't believe they're already on another mission after just defeating the demons. Saki explains that they can't rest because other countries are urgently requesting assistance. She mentions that Jean is their last hope, and she prays the capital will be rebuilt by the time they return. Ashrin expresses concern that the demons might recapture the capital, and Kai recalls that after the battle, when they were cleaning up, Rin detected the scent of demons. They followed the smell but found nothing in the area. Rin quickly realized it was a trap, but before they could escape, they were caught in a barrier. They were then confronted by Vanessa's sister, who attacked them. However, Kai used Code Holder to cut through her attack. She then tried to attack Kai, but Rin intervened, and Kai demanded to know her intentions. She introduced herself as Heinril, a succubus, and stated that she was there merely to greet them. Kai sensed that Heinril's power was on par with Vanessa's, and she expressed surprise that her sister had been defeated by a human. She speculated that it must have taken a series of miracles for him to succeed, and that he wouldn't have stood a chance if she had been present at the royal capital. When Kai asked if she was seeking revenge for her sister, Heimro laughed and explained that while she loved her sister, Vanessa's death made her the new number one. She thanked Kai and revealed that the demons could easily retake the capital, but were deliberately allowing the humans to keep it for now. Heimro proposed a truce. The demons would concede the royal capital, but in return, all other territories would belong to them. She asked if Kai agreed to the truce, and he told her he would pass the message to his commander. Heimro then encouraged Kai to fight the other three races, implying that the demons wanted the humans to destroy themselves. She even offered Kai a kiss if he succeeded, but he was uninterested. She warned him to be wary of Alfreya, who had been acting strangely, before leaving. Back in the present, Kai tells the group that they should leave the reconstruction to others, explaining that their job is to cooperate with the Io Federation's rebel army to take down the Celestials. Saki recalls that the Celestials are an alliance of elves, dwarves, fairies, and angels. Kai describes them as even more cowardly and cunning than humans, creating powerful magic items for battle. He explains that if humans see demons as monsters, then Celestials are like enhanced humans. Jean then announces over the comms that they are about to pass the halfway point on the highway, with a rest stop 2 kilometers ahead. She mentions that the rest stop hasn't been maintained for years, but it should be adequate for a break. Suddenly, Rin notices something and asks Ashrin to open the top hatch. She looks outside and spots a dragon flying nearby. Ashrin is puzzled, as they should still be in demon territory. Kai alerts everyone, and Jean orders all vehicles to move forward at full speed. However, the dragon quickly catches up. The soldiers fire at it on Jean's orders, but the bullets have little effect, and the dragon destroys 2 vehicles. Rin then uses her lightning magic on the dragon, and Kai pretends it was one of his bullets, allowing them to drive the dragon away. Jean orders a halt to rescue the soldiers from the wrecked vehicles. The scene shifts to the soldiers at camp, where the injured receive treatment. Rin and Kai share a tent, and Kai feels guilty about using such a large space. He suggests Rin sleep in the tent for female soldiers, but Rin dislikes the idea, and Kai realizes she would feel anxious surrounded by so many humans. Rin then informs Kai that Jean is approaching, and Jean enters the tent with Phelan. Kai is surprised when Jean explains that this tent is for commanding officers, and that she and Phelan are here as her bodyguards. Phelan then asks to speak with Kai privately outside. She tells him she will guard the camp perimeter while he guards the inside. She warns that if Jean stays with her, people might figure out that Jean is a woman. Kai agrees, and Phelan cautions him not to get any funny ideas since Jean will be in light attire when she removes her armor for sleep. Kai reassures her and promises to take care of Jean. Returning to the tent, Kai sees Rin giving Jean a massage, which Jean enjoys so much that she promises to return the favor later. Kai muses that it must be tough pretending to be a man, and Jean jokes that he'll only understand how tough it is when he has to pretend to be a woman. By the way, who is your favorite character so far? Let me know in the comments below. Kai then talks to Jean about the dragon they encountered, expressing his surprise at seeing such a beast in the Urza Federation. Jean speculates that it might have been scouting the area after Vanessa's defeat, and reassures him that the capital is well defended. She then shifts the topic, telling Kai that she tosses and turns in her sleep and apologizing in advance if she kicks him during the night. Later, we see the 3 of them asleep in the tent, with Kai unable to rest as the 2 girls cling to him in their sleep. The next day, as they continue their journey, Ashrin notices Kai's exhaustion and assumes it's because he was Jean's bodyguard. Kai is too tired to correct his misunderstanding. Rin notices the Great Border Wall, and Ashrin informs them they'll soon enter the Io Federation. Beyond the wall lies their destination, Cassiopeia, the 8th city near the Federation's capital, where the rebel army is based. As they approach, Saki is eager to fight any celestial they encounter. But Kai warns her to be careful, as celestials closely resemble humans. Jean then orders a halt, and they continue on foot. Rina eats some fruit along the way, but Kai points out they're poisoned, which surprises Rina, as she's had them before in the Elven Forest. Fa Lin explains that the celestial invasion buried the human city with the Elven Forest. At the rebel army headquarters, they're greeted with cheers. Seth, the advisor, welcomes them and recognizes Fa Lin, noting how long they've survived in this desolate world. Jean requests an immediate meeting with their commander, Dante Gelfa Ligeri, a descendant of the Io Federation's royal family. He's known for being envious, suspicious, and obsessive. Fa Lin warns Jean that Dante may view her as a threat, but Seth reassures her that the soldiers appreciate her. They meet Kubari, the assistant commander, who manages communication with Dante. Rin senses something off about Kubari, but keeps it to herself. When they meet Dante, he questions Jean's late arrival, dismissing her explanation about their encounter with a dragon. Dante suspects she's after more glory following her victory at the Urza Federation. Jean clarifies she's there at the rebel army's request, and Dante admits his subordinates acted without his consent. Jean advises him to focus on earning respect from his soldiers if he wants honors. Dante is taken aback by her words. During a strategy meeting, Seth explains the distribution of various races across uncharted territories. Jean offers to lead the search for the Celestial's hero, but Dante rejects the idea, arguing that a general shouldn't be on the front lines. Jean's willingness to risk her life inspires the soldiers. That night, Rin convinces Ashran to cook something unusual, which he doubts is edible. Meanwhile, Ashran asks Kai if he noticed Kubari's beauty during the meeting, and he's surprised that Rina also shows interest. The next day, Jean scouts the Elven Forest with the rebel army. Back at camp, Dante criticizes Jean's recklessness, and Kubari agrees, though she secretly finds Dante foolish. Jean returns and announces she'll map out the area based on her findings. Kai notices Fa Lin is worried about Jean, and she vows to lecture her later. In another strategy meeting, Jean explains that they've identified the elves' patrol routes and outlines their invasion strategy. The soldiers eagerly cooperate. Afterward, Rin asks Kai when they'll fight the angels and elves. He assures her they'll fight once prepared, but warns they must be cautious, as the Celestials are cunning. Rin then notices Kubari and Dante are absent, and Kai suspects they're uninterested in field command. Meanwhile, Dante, jealous of Jean's success, plots to achieve something greater. He decides to personally lead a mission to capture elves and angels, despite Sephin's concerns about the plan's feasibility. Dante orders Sephin to keep this mission secret from the Urza rebel army. Back at the Urza camp, Rin shares her suspicion that Kubari might not be human. Elsewhere, a rebel army lies defeated beneath a hovering castle. Alfraya informs the dwarves and elves that the angels are severing ties with them, leaving them shocked and wary of the unknown monster behind him, which Alfraya does not explain. We then see a peculiar structure. An entity with a strange metallic doll on its back approaches the clerics, who attempt to fend off its hostility. However, the Great Elder is petrified, and another mage is thrown down. Surviving the fall, the elf awakens in a cabin and hears multiple voices in her mind through telepathy. The voices express relief that Priestess Reiron has survived, but remain deeply concerned about the Great Elder. Reiron asks everyone to stay calm, promising to explain everything once she meets with the fairies and dwarves. One of the voices asks what should be done with the captured humans, but the priestess was unaware of this situation. Regarding Jean's battalion, the last contact they had was with Dante yesterday morning before communications were cut off, and no one knows his whereabouts. Kai suspects Dante is being influenced by someone, quickly pointing fingers at his assistant, Kubiri, imagining she might be an elven spy. If true, this could mean there are more enemies within Eo's army, making it crucial for Urza's unit to conduct its own investigation. Following the path, they find dozens of Eo rifles scattered on the ground, possibly indicating that Dante and his battalion fell into a trap. A magical circle is drawn on a nearby tree, though Jean doesn't find this trap particularly hard to spot. However, Kai points out that the real danger is above them. Looking up, Jean sees countless leaves, each with a different magical circle, and realizes the intelligence of the celestial beings. If Kai hadn't pointed it out, she might have mistaken it for sunlight filtering through. The soldier mentions records from his world about this technique, which allowed him to recognize it in advance. He also notes that elves use many traps and always place them close together. Additionally, Rin senses the scent of an elf nearby, prompting the group to go on high alert. Following the path indicated by Kai, the leader questions if the soldier truly knows the way. Kai explains that Rin underwent special training to sense magic, allowing her to sniff out the direction of their targets. Guided by the scent of that race, the entity leads the human soldiers to a ruined structure where the scent fades. Without warning, a magical circle on the ground activates, teleporting the team to another part of the forest. Amid the shock, Saki complains that Ashran touched her hand, but he argues that she was the one brushing up against him. Phelan orders them to stay quiet within enemy territory and remains vigilant, scanning all sides of the mysterious woods. Suddenly, a fairy appears in front of the humans, chasing a butterfly until the tiny creature crashes into Ashran's leg and falls to the ground, dazed. After recovering, she asks which forest Ashran came from, mistaking him for an elf, though she doesn't sense any magic from him. The boy explains that he and the others are humans, causing the fairy to flee in fear of being eaten. She quickly reaches a village guarded by elven archers. As the humans arrive, the elves ready their arrows, but a superior orders them to lower their weapons. The elven leader remarks that she never imagined humans could activate the portal, to which Jean replies it's a pleasure to meet Dante's assistant commander again, or rather the celestial spy. Quiberi insists on being called by her name, while Jean wants to know what happened to Dante and the others. Quiberi informs them that everyone is alive, but that they inhaled dust from a colony of paralyzing plants, rendering them immobile for several days. Jean demands the prisoners be released, but the elf imposes a condition: the humans must fight against the angels. Kai questions this, given that elves and angels are historical allies, to which Quiberi reveals they were betrayed by that race. In any case, Reiron is awaiting the visitors, so they should follow the elf into the village. When they finally meet the priestess, she notes that it's the first time humans have entered the elven village, so they might take pride in the achievement, though it doesn't mean they're welcome. Setting that aside, she expresses curiosity about whether the Holy Light Knight and his men truly defeated Vanessa, the Empress of Darkness. When Jean confirms this, Reiron mentions that the armor the human commander wears is an elven garment and wants to know how Jean acquired it. Jean responds that she found it 10 years ago along the borders of the Urza Federation, a magical item demons had stolen from the Celestials. Her unit ambushed those enemies, and the armor was among the spoils. Since no elves were killed in the process, Reiron sets the matter aside and proposes a deal with the humans. If the prisoners are returned, the priestess wants Jean and her troops to rescue the Great Elder from the hands of Lord Alfreya. Kai is stunned to learn that the celestial hero himself captured such an important figure for the elves. Reiron feels both pleased and perplexed. She remembers the entity as kind and warm, but everything changed when Alfreya decided that elves, dwarves, and fairies should bow to the angels, igniting widespread revolt. Reiron accompanied the elder to represent the races and appeal to the celestial hero, but he refused to listen and, moreover, captured the Great Elder. Kai questions whether the elves couldn't directly confront the angels and carry out the rescue, and the priestess confirms this. However, Phelan raises the possibility that this story could be a trap. as a combined ambush by elves and angels could annihilate the human resistance. To prove the truth of the priestess's words, Quiberi offers her own life, agreeing to accompany the men to the angels' palace. If they find that Reiron has lied, they can kill Quiberi whenever they wish. Despite this brave gesture, Phelan immediately refuses, stating that the life of the elven priestess cannot be worth more than the 6 human fighters and the 20 hostages. The elf, therefore, offers herself as collateral. Quiberi is devastated, recognizing the tremendous loss it would mean in the absence of the Great Elder. But Reiron insists, stating that this is their only chance to resolve the situation, even if it costs her life. Preventing a war between the celestial beings is crucial, so the priestess instructs the dwarves and fairies, who are lurking nearby in the forest, to return to their places and refrain from attacking just yet. Next, she calls the small fairy Silk, whom the fighters had encountered earlier. Silk casts a spell that brings enormous water lilies closer to the shore, where the humans should sit while the details are explained. As night falls, Kai watches Rin sleep at the camp they set up. Reiron doesn't understand why the humans stay awake when they should be lighting a fire, assuring them that neither she nor any elf plans to attack them while they sleep. Hearing this, Kai lowers his guard slightly. Reiron then mentions that Jean told her the boy and girl now sleeping were the ones who defeated Vanessa. She wants to know how that was possible and whether the methods used by the man would be effective. Once they reach the Palace of the Angels, there might be a confrontation with the Celestial Lord, and if no one can stop his power, everyone will die. With that, she stands up and warns Kai that if he ever runs away in fear, she won't allow him to leave the forest alive. Despite understanding the elf's stance, Kai doesn't have the answers she seeks. He asks if she knows anything about a human known as the Prophet Sid, but the priestess has no idea, which further diminishes Kai's hopes of learning the truth about this legend. He recalls Vanessa mentioning the prophet's name, something about a global reincarnation Sid predicted, and that Kai should find the one responsible for provoking this reincarnation, as it would completely change the world. As dawn breaks, the humans gather in the search unit designated to enter the Angel's Palace. Saki hopes communication with headquarters works during this mission. As the elf mentioned, the palace is atop a colossal tree, and the humans can't even see the location. Reiron conjures a double trick to teleport their new allies, prompting Kai to ask if the elf is practicing this method to use against the humans. However, the cleric explains that no one fears the humans, only demons, spirits, and mythical beasts. In response to this dismissive remark, Kai notes that demons used to think the same way. He points out that the angels likely have most of their army ready at the border, so the palace might be poorly defended. As he speaks with unyielding determination, the elf acknowledges that they didn't defeat Vanessa by chance, but Kai goes further, mentioning that he knows a human who single-handedly defeated the 4 heroes of the other races. The spell activates, teleporting the group to the top of the tree, where the Angel's Palace is located. A terrible smell of fire and smoke permeates the air, and burning angels appear where the humans stand. Despite this, Reiron realizes that the victims aren't dead, but Kai believes it's time to use this massacre to their advantage, as the path ahead is clear. Guided by the priestess, they navigate through the palace's stages, something Phelan acknowledges would be impossible without her. As they progress deeper into the structure, the group is attacked by a small cutting tornado that destroys the floor beneath them. At the source of this power stands an angel who detects the stench from this place, especially from an old acquaintance of Reiron. Upon closely examining the entity's face, the elf recognizes the war angel Vicious and feels sorrow, seeing that even the angels she trusted have joined the betrayal against her race. Vicious declares herself a servant of Valfreya, the Lord of the Heavens, insisting that everything must act according to his will, and that the burned angels at the entrance were foolish traitors who opposed the great leader's orders. The angel warns that soon the great elder of the elves will be executed, serving as a warning to the other races, who will finally understand that they must bow to the angels. Phelan leads Ashran and Saki against the angel, while Kai and Reiron continue the mission. Vicious attempts to block the human's passage, but the shooters successfully prevent her reaction. The angel finds it ridiculous that this inferior race stands against the angels, but Phelan retorts that they've heard enough of that. On the floor above, the group encounters another angel guarding the area. Rin grabs the entity's gigantic hammer to avoid being crushed and throws the enemy away. Reiron spots Rafalo, who is outraged by the elf's rebellion against his master. Rin assures the group that she can handle this threat alone while the rest proceed. Without delay, the remaining 3 members reach the next floor, where Reiron creates magic circles on each pillar. Kai deduces that Alfreya is present, protecting himself with dozens of barriers, while Jean apologizes to the man for leaving the fight against Vanessa to him. This time, she promises to fight alongside him. Once the circles are drawn, the elf activates her power and transports the duo to the place where the Great Elder is imprisoned. In addition to the Elder, Alfreya floats in the sky, demanding obedience from the inferior beings who lack wings and must look up when they see the heavens. According to him, all blessings come from the heavens and are granted to the earth, but he wishes that only the angels receive these blessings.
The scene then shifts to Vicious utters a spell that unleashes a powerful wind, nearly slicing the combatants in half. But they leap at just the right moment to avoid being shredded. Phelan, with her flaming blades, charges at the entity. The entity, recognizing her as a formidable opponent, skillfully deflects her strike. The angel observes that the swords appear to be forged from dragon fangs, which are mystical creatures. Such weapons are so powerful that they can explode on impact. Phelan is surprised by how much her enemy knows about this. Vicious then explains that celestial beings are masters at crafting these kinds of items. Phelan seizes the moment to point out that Alria aims to enslave the Celestials, reducing their talents to mere tools in his hands. However, Vicious, blinded by devotion to the supreme leader of her race and consumed by hatred for the so-called inferior races, dismisses her words. On the floor above, Ren is locked in a fierce battle with Raffaello. The angel admits he didn't expect her to pierce his divine defense. Realizing her strength, he begins to see Rin as a real threat. Rhine, however, angrily retorts that the Celestial is lying because her attacks haven't had any effect. She also emphasizes her disdain for his relaxed attitude, which she interprets as him looking down on her, just as angels do with other races. Raffaello, unmoved by her words, shrugs and asks what kind of creature she is. Rhine confesses she doesn't know, but says it doesn't matter as long as she has Kai by her side. Meanwhile, the supreme leader of the Celestials plans to execute the Great Elder of the Elves, which leaves Rhine even more disillusioned with the angel, who she once thought was kind. Filled with anger, Rhine declares that Alfre has no right to rule the Celestials and vows to send him to his grave. She charges at Raffaello, who counters with his magnificent ability, summoning a red blade that nearly strikes the priestess, but Kai intervenes just in time, using his code holder power to neutralize the enemy's magic. Alfre, curious about Kai's abilities, questions if he's really human or perhaps an elf in disguise, since he's protecting an elven cleric. Kai clarifies that he is fully human. Alfre, puzzled by Kai's decision to protect someone of another race, argues that the death of the elven elder would stir deep hatred between elves and humans. Kai explains that his and Rhine's existence are very different. Even though his judgment may be questioned, he would still face death just like the elf. Alfreya responds that Kai's survival is only due to his unusual sword. Kai takes this moment to explain that his weapon withstood the magic of the Dark Empress Vanessa and is capable of challenging Alfreya as well. Amused, Alfreya laughs and calls Vanessa a pathetic demon who was defeated by a mere human. Caillou, unfazed, retorts that Alfreya has no right to ridicule Vanessa, considering he tried to execute his own subordinates. The angel, still smiling, claims it was his decision because he is a divine being, the noblest and brightest star. He refuses to acknowledge anyone who disobeys him as a subordinate. Tired of his arrogance, Jean fires a magic arrow from her moon longbow which Alfreya blocks, but the force of the projectile shatters his shield, and a shard cuts his face. Bleeding slightly, the angel asks Jean if she knows the danger of using an elven bow with her human body. Jean, undeterred, declares that her life being drained is a small price for victory. She launches another arrow at Alfreya, who counters with a celestial ray. The arrow ricochets off his magic and hits Jean, but she is unharmed thanks to her holy light garb. The celestial hero vows not to forgive Jean for using profane elven equipment. He then summons a series of thunderbolts, but Ryan invokes the shield of the third princess to prevent disaster. Together, she and Kai rush to free the Great Elder, while Alfreya tries to stop them with his divine punishment spear. He attempts to block with the shield of the fourth princess, but it's ineffective. Kai deflects the attack with his sword, giving Ryan a chance to break the crystal imprisoning the Elder. However, her dagger shatters upon contact. Stunned, Ryan reflects on the coffin, sealing the Great Elder. The spear that pierces her barriers, the bell that summons lightning, and the staff that creates a red blade. Repressed, Ryan wonders how the angel can wield such powerful magic all at once. Even as a hero, Alfreya should be low on mana by now, but he isn't. She questions if this immense power is what caused the angel to change, but he denies it, claiming he hasn't changed. In his mind, the time for the rapture has come, and a new subordinate will replace Alfreya. This subordinate is Last Riser, the robotic woman who attacked Kai, Ryan, and Vanessa. Meanwhile, Ryan struggles against Raffaello's power, but refuses to give in. With determination, she shatters his helmet with a powerful punch. Similarly, Phelan fights fiercely against Vicious. The officer orders Saki and Ashrin to shoot the angel's wings, but he dodges the bullets. Ashrin goes further. Throwing a grenade that nearly hits the target, Vicious narrowly escapes, but is left vulnerable to Phelan's charge. She finds herself face to face with the angel's wings, the source of their mana. Upon hearing Phelan's mention of this, the angel is puzzled by how a human could know such things. Phelan explains that a man from another world told her. As soon as Vicious hears this, she drops her weapon to the ground. After Ren defeats Raffaello, he backs down and tells her to move forward, suggesting her power might be what's needed to free the Great Elder. Confused, Ryan asks if he has switched sides. Raffaello explains that both he and Vicious have noticed a change in Alfreya's behavior and have been waiting for this moment to try and turn the tables. Vicious also allows the humans to leave, but insists that Phelan apologize to Riarnan the Great Elder on her behalf. Phelan, however, is indifferent to the angel's request and says if Vicious wants to apologize, she should do it herself and guide the humans. Meanwhile, Alfreya orders Last Riser to kill the enemies, and she unleashes a thunderous spell that sends Jean flying through the air. Not one to let it go, Jean fires another arrow, but it does no damage to the mysterious machine. We then see that Ryan caught Jean midair, allowing her to shoot her bow and kill her opponent even after being thrown. Alfreya seizes the opportunity to mock the grotesque creature of no defined race, but Rin is focused on the Last Riser in front of her. Kai asks the angel about the talk of world reincarnation, but Alfreya has no idea. Frustrated, Kai asks if he knows anything about Sid, and upon hearing the name, Alfreya's eyes tremble. He admits he received something from that human. Suddenly, Last Riser surprises everyone by wrapping one of her arms around the celestial heroes. The machine system claims to have detected unexpected fluctuations from Alfreya due to the mention of Sid. Last Riser then executes Code Zero, removing Alfreya's code from the world and initiating hero subsistence. The angel is entirely sucked into a portal, leaving everyone in disbelief at what they were witnessing. Kai recalls that the same thing almost happened to Vanessa that day, as Last Riser withdraws through another portal. After that, Alfreya reappears within a bizarre energy spiral that obscures his original features, bringing forth the angel's avatar with black wings. This makes Kai remember that world reincarnation was activated when he was taken before Jean in her original. That day, the world was rewritten, and now a hero has been replaced. With this process, Alfreya feels even more important, convinced that he is the only one who exists and that everything else must burn. As he says this, he unleashes a powerful spell against his enemies, which Ryan defends with her barrier. However, the shield cannot withstand the intense pressure and shatters, causing an explosion. The impact knocks down Rin and Riran, while Kai falls to his knees, using his sword for support. The priestess observes that Alfreya used magic without channeling it through his items. Alfreya explains that this is a work of the heavens meant to admire his power. Ryan tries to snap the angel out of it, saying he's delirious and consuming his life in the process. She reminds him that celestials take pride in the items they use for spellcasting, but this angel takes pleasure in casting magic with his hands. Ignoring tradition, irritated, Alfreya attacks again. So Ryan aligns all the guardian princesses to summon the sixth princess, a six-layered magical barrier. After breaking through the first two, Alfreya's spell stops at the third shield. The elf points out that no matter how strong Alfreya is, no attack can penetrate the 7 guardian princesses. However, Alfreya proves her wrong by using the divine gift of the Sword King, a blade that easily surpasses the enemy's shields and strikes Ryan. Kai steps in to block the attack, reminding the elf that she believes in the return of the true Alfreya. But the angelic machine ignores him and questions what a mere human could understand. In response, Kai says he understands that Alfreya is no longer the one Raren worships, nor the leader of the Celestials, but merely an imitation that reproduces the power of a hero. Rin and Ryan are incredulous and fear Alfreya's reaction, while Rin still recovering from the explosion, while Kai fought the celestial hero, using Seed's sword in a duel. He noticed that Alfreya's sword regenerated each time it broke, meaning Ryan's barrier only worked briefly. Alfreya boasted that his sword was unstoppable because it was a divine gift, making him believe he didn't need magical or celestial items. Kai argued that true heroes protect their people, but Alfreya saw this as a weakness. Determined to prove human strength, Kai used Seed's blade to counter Alfreya's heavy strikes and nearly hit him. Jean, observing, wondered if Kai was better at swordsmanship, and Ryan agreed with some reservations. Alfreya, tired of the fight, discarded his sword and caused the Palace of Angels to collapse. Ryan quickly asked Jean for her strength to defeat the Celestial Lord. Kai attacked the magical barrier around Alfreya, striking it multiple times. Though the shield wasn't destroyed, Kai's blade managed to cut Alfreya's abdomen. Losing patience, Alfreya grabbed Kai by the neck. Kai hoped the enemy might regain reason, as Vanessa had, but it seemed unlikely. Meanwhile, Ryan summoned the Sith princesses, and Jean prepared her longbow of the true moon. She fired a powerful shot that struck Alfreya's left shoulder, destroying part of his body. But Alfreya remained standing, fueled by rage and a golden aura of power. Kai spun Alfreya's body and delivered a punch to the wound, finally bringing him down. A massive energy burst from Alfreya, along with dark beams that had been controlling him. The angel, now changed, lamented losing his wings. Ryan, both scared and hopeful, called out to him. He smiled, warning everyone to escape quickly, as the place would soon collapse. Alfreya admitted he no longer deserved worship, but Ryan disagreed. As the crystal holding the Great Elder shattered, Alfreya asked Ryan to tell everyone it was his mistake. Kai noticed a similarity between Alfreya's behavior and Vanessa's when she was defeated. Alfreya confessed that Prophet CD had entrusted him with words about something meant to exist, but he never discovered what it was. He realized that Kai's act of saving an elf likely activated a taboo code, leading to the need to destroy the hatred consuming the world. As he spoke, Alfreya's arm crumbled away, and his remains were carried into the sky by the wind, ending the Celestial Lord's legend. In the lower regions of the palace, Vicious saw the fragments of his master floating away. Amid the Elder's magic, Raffaello regretted not being able to help while his master was corrupted. Kai asked when the Celestial Leader's behavior changed, assuming it was when Last Riser appeared. Raffaello believed Alfreya distanced himself from his allies when that creature emerged. Kai didn't understand why Alfreya thought Last Riser was his subordinate, especially since the machine attacked him. The strange creature had been appearing after Kai rescued Rin, almost as if it were monitoring her. In a nightmare, a woman of an unknown race was being chased by Last Riser alongside Prophet Seid. The man asked if the machine did this to her, but then he and Rin were attacked. Rin woke up scared and hugged Kai. He admitted he was worried because she wouldn't wake up, but she assured him she was fine, explaining she had been trapped in a deep nightmare. Jean then interrupted their conversation, startling Rin, who asked how long the commander had been there. Jean tells Rin that she has been there the whole time, but Rin didn't notice because she was focused on Kai. Jean reminds them that she wanted to talk after the fight. She mentions that Phelan warned her to be careful since everyone suspected Rin might not be human. Rin admits she doesn't know what race she belongs to. Kai apologizes for not telling Jean earlier. Jean asks if they thought she would harm Rin if she knew the truth. Kai says it's possible for a resistance commander to do that. Jean agrees but explains that she trusts Rin because she fought against the demon heroine and saved her. Kai reassures Jean that Rin is on the side of the resistance, and Rin confirms this. Rin is happy to have Jean's trust, and Jean decides to keep Rin's non-human status a secret to avoid confusion among the fighters. Jean then asks to touch Rin's wing and finds it ticklish, so she teases her a bit. At dawn, the Great Elder proposes an agreement humans won't enter the forest, and celestial beings won't enter human cities starting next year. Jean agrees and takes responsibility for explaining this to the EO rebel army. The Elder also offers some items to the humans as a gesture of goodwill. Jean receives the fully restored longbow of the moon. Kai gets special bullets that can cancel enemy magic, which he used in combat. Kai is impressed that his equipment was made by real elves. The Elder admits that without the human support, the Celestials would have had a civil war. She asks Jean if her troops plan to fight the spirits and mythical beasts in the west. Jean apologizes and says she can't share internal information. The Elder understands but notes that the Urza Federation will need a guide to pass through celestial territory to achieve their goals. Jean doesn't understand why the Elf Federation is offering help. The Elder explains that Alfrea changed after encountering an intruder 10 years ago, and she needs to understand the connection between the Celestial Lord and the King of the Fangs. She orders Rioran to guide the humans. Rioran is frustrated but accepts the Elder's decision. Rin teases her, and Rioran asks Kai to defend her. Kai says he's happy she was chosen to accompany the troops, which embarrasses Rioran. After the meeting, Jean asks Zephyr Backenhain to inform the EO army about the truce with the Celestials. She thanks Dante for his support and the provisions for the expedition, but Dante dismisses it, saying cooperation between the Yura and EO armies has failed. Zephyr is confused, but Dante explains that while defeating the Celestial leader may seem like a victory, humans are still seen as a threat. With the demons and Celestials defeated, spirits and mythical beasts may become more hostile, so cooperation between all rebel armies is crucial. Joshua, the commander of the Yulan rebel army, fights against the southern spirits. He is known as Bahamung the Lion King, an old acquaintance of Jean and a veteran hero. Jean says she owes a debt to him, and Dante assumes Bahamung is trustworthy, unlike himself. Jean disagrees, but Dante insists that surprise attacks won't work anymore, so it's wise to form alliances with Bahamung and other rebel leaders. Dante believes Jean needs to change her tactics. Phelan steps in and suggests that Dante lower his ego if he wants to lead humanity. Dante responds that he would rather leave that responsibility to Jean. Since she doesn't want to lead humanity, he demands that the Urza Federation withdraw before the spirits and mythical beasts arrive. Meanwhile, the King of the Fangs and Rikijin Kyoko discuss the defeat of Vanessa and Alfrea. Wrath believes Vanessa fell because she accepted the superficial power of Last Riser, and now only the two of them remain of the four heroes. Rikijin accuses the king of lying but acknowledges that she understands the situation and that the race of spirits will vanish by the end of the day. Kyoko tries to flee, but Rathi chases her down, knocking her to the ground. Rathi kicks at her, but Kyoko defends herself by splitting into several parts, surrounding Rathi with her liquid form. Kyoko manages to grab hold of her and drags her across the ground, injuring her in the process. In response, Rathi summons a Last Riser which grabs Kyoko and begins to crush her. Kyoko transforms into her liquid form again, narrowly escaping destruction. Meanwhile, we shift to Kai and his friends driving through the Elven Forest. Raren explains to Kai that the road they're on is used by the Okarichichipuran giant hedgehogs about 10 meters wide. Though they rarely appear. If they do, they can roll over and crush a car to pieces. Saki and Ashran express concern about what would happen if one appeared, and Raren nonchalantly replies that they'd simply be crushed. Despite this, Raren assures them that this is the fastest route if they plan to head south. Rin still isn't comfortable with Raren accompanying them and feels jealous that Raren is sitting next to Kai. Raren points out that she's giving directions, which is why she's in the front. It's revealed that they've introduced Raren to the rest of the army as a professor from the Io Federation. Saki worries that the others will notice she's an elf, with her ears being a dead giveaway. However, Raren explains that her garment has cognitive ambition magic embedded in it, so those unaware of her identity will simply see her as an ordinary human. Raren cheekily mentions that this just shows she's more skilled than Rin, which only fuels Rin's irritation. The two start bickering, leaving Kai to wish they would just sit quietly. Jean then contacts them via radio, asking if there are any abnormalities. Kai assures her everything is fine, and Jean inquires how much farther it is to the Yuluan Federation. Rarin estimates they'll reach it in 3 days and 3 nights if they maintain their current pace. Jean is relieved that they are on schedule and asks if there are any suitable places to set up camp. Rarin mentions a spot with numerous hot springs that they'll reach in about half a day if they stick to this path. Jean decides to head there, and Falin points out a part of the path that appears to have been eroded. Jean suspects the damage was caused by a mythical beast, but is puzzled why such a creature would be in celestial territory. She speculates that, like the dragon they encountered earlier, the mythical beasts might be crossing borders and invading other lands. We then return to Reithi, who is destroying the splattered remains of Kyoko. However, she realizes that not all of Kyoko's pieces are present and wonders if Kyoko managed to escape with just her core. Given Kyoko's status as the hero of the spirits, Reithi thinks it's possible. She suspects where Kyoko might be heading but finds it strange, as even a spirit shouldn't be able to locate that place. Still, Reithi is confident she'll get another chance to deal with Kyoko in the future and grows excited, curious to see what path those Usukai Yos, the taboo code, will choose. Later, we see Jean and the others camping in the forest, with the men enjoying a dip in one of the hot springs. Ashran is impressed by how warm and relaxing the water is, and Kai explains that the springs are heated underground and are said to have healing properties. Meanwhile, in another spring, Saki and Falin are the first of the women to enjoy the bath. They wonder if it's all right for them to go first, but Falin assures Saki that they've earned it, reminding her of their efforts in the battle against the hero of the Celestials. Elsewhere, Kai keeps watch outside Jean's camp. Ashran remarks that it must be tough being Jean's bodyguard, and Kai agrees, though he knows he's the only one suited for the job. It's crucial that no one discovers Jean's secret that she's actually a girl. Kai hopes the 3 women are all right in the bath, and we soon see Jean bathing with Rarin and Rin. Rarin comments on how well Jean's wounds are healing and assures her she'll recover fully soon. Jean thanks her for the healing, and Rarin notices that Rin's wounds have also healed. Rarin teases Rin, remarking that her body is as provocative as a succubus's, while Rin defensively counters that she's not obscene, it's Rarin who's too flat. Rarin proudly declares that elves are perfectly proportioned with no excess, which leads the two to bicker again. Jean steps in, asking them to listen as she shares a conversation she had with Kai. In that conversation, Jean had asked Kai about world reincarnation and code holder, but Kai admitted he didn't know much about them. Jean noted that at least they were certain Kai's weapon wasn't of human origin, and that it might be dangerous to keep using it. Despite this, she acknowledged that she wasn't one to talk, as she uses similar weapons. Kai had warned her that sacrificing her life energy to wield elven magic items was reckless, but Jean, being stubborn, hadn't listened. Kai told her she'd always been like this. Jean then confessed that it didn't matter to her whether Kai was from another world or not. All that mattered was whether he was useful in battle. Kai thought this was a natural stance for a rebel army commander. She pointed out that their priority now was figuring out how to handle the monster. She remembered that the last riser appeared when Kai fought Vanessa, and had also dealt a fatal blow to Alfrea. Kai confirmed this and mentioned that there was no record of such a monster in his previous world. He speculated that the last riser might be monitoring the heroes, and its switch from monitoring to attack mode could be triggered by the name Sid, which refers to the human hero who doesn't exist in this world. Jean wondered about the last riser's connection to the remaining heroes, a thought that also crossed Kai's mind. Jean remarked that, for now, their only option was to continue confronting these forces and bring an end to the Great War among the 5 races. In the present, Rarin acknowledged that they still knew very little about the monster that transformed Elfrey. Jean advised that they must remain vigilant for the last riser while battling any hero from now on. Rin then admitted she was terrified of the creature. She explained that her legs go weak, and she becomes paralyzed with fear when she sees it. Jean apologized for scaring her, but Rin assured her it was fine. Just then, a loud noise erupted, and they realized the soldiers outside were under attack by a mythical beast. Despite firing their guns, the soldiers were unable to stop it. Kai arrived at the scene and identified the creature as a behemoth. He charged forward and fired a bullet, but it barely had an effect. Falin soon joined him, and together they attacked the beast, but it quickly shook them off. Phelan used a flash bomb, allowing the soldiers to retreat temporarily. As they regrouped, Kai was surprised that the modified Drake bullet had no impact on the monster. He wondered if this behemoth was stronger than the mythical beasts he was familiar with. Jean then ordered some of the forces to rescue the injured and directed others to set up a relief base. Falin informed Jean that the behemoth was likely the same creature that left the marks they had seen earlier in the forest. Rurin was shocked that a mythical beast had ventured into celestial territory, and Jean suspected it might be on a reconnaissance mission. Kai remarked that they would need something stronger than a cannon to defeat a beast of this size. Falin responded that the largest weapon they had was an auto-cannon, and they weren't prepared for a battle against such a creature. Falin suggested buying time, urging Jean to retreat with the soldiers. Jean refused and asked Kai how they could defeat the beast. She stressed that they couldn't afford to be overpowered by an enemy like this if they hoped to face spirits and mythical beasts later on. Kai agreed and pointed out that the beast's weak spot was the atrophied magic organ on its head. Jean wondered how they could target that organ, speculating that they might have something useful in celestial territory. She asked Raren about this, and soon Fallon and a group of soldiers attempted to distract the behemoth by attacking from behind, leading it away from the camp. Kai used mushroom fog spores to blind the beast, and Raren explained that this would impair its sight and sense of smell for a while. Rin then struck the creature with her lightning magic, while Kai attacked with his gun sword. The behemoth retaliated, targeting Raren, but Kai protected her. They successfully led the beast into a trap, and Raren activated a magic circle, teleporting the creature elsewhere. Raren was relieved their plan worked, explaining that the beast was likely being incinerated by the magma-like heat of the Purgatory Flower Garden. John noticed Rin crying over Kai's wound, which he had sustained while protecting her. Kai reassured Rin that the beast may have sensed her because of her magic, and she felt guilty for putting him in danger. She hated seeing him hurt. Kai, however, was just glad that Rin was safe. Jean and Raren soon approached to check on him, and Raren treated his injury, stopping the bleeding and bandaging the wound. Later, we see Kai resting at the camp, with Rin asleep beside him. Jean and Raren were also resting in the same tent. While asleep, Kai dreamt of a place in celestial territory. A voice called out to him, telling him that he was the child loved by fate and beckoning him to come to this location. When they all awoke, it became clear that everyone had shared the same dream. Kai thought the voice sounded familiar, and Raren, unaware of what had happened, asked what was going on. The next morning, as the group prepared to leave, Ashran informed Saki that their departure time had changed. Saki wondered if this meant she could take another dip in the hot springs, and Ashran teased her, asking if she was getting addicted to them. Meanwhile, Kai, Jean, Raren, and Rin headed toward the place they had seen in their dream. Raren said she didn't mind leading them to the structure they described, but she noted that there was nothing significant at that location, just a few statues inside. Kai was surprised that she had been there before, and she explained that when she first saw the structure, she thought humans made the silliest things. Jean was shocked that humans had built something in such a remote place, and Raren confirmed that since it wasn't of celestial origin, it must have been made by humans. Kai speculated that it might be a megalith, explaining that megaliths were spiritual ruins of unknown origin, with no explanation for their creation. He mentioned that there were several such structures in his world, and Rin had been to one before, though she couldn't remember visiting this place. Kai then pointed out that in his world's history, there were special buildings used to seal away the 4 races, and in this world, one of these structures had hidden the code holder. As they arrived at the mysterious building, the voice from their dream invited them inside, telling them they had finally reached the center of the world. Raren, unable to hear the voice, asks what's going on, and Kai is surprised that she didn't hear anything. Rinny, sensing the voice came from inside, heads into the building, and Kai asks Raren to stand guard outside for a while as the others follow Rin in. Once inside, Kai notices that the structure resembles a graveyard, and Rinny detects a powerful energy, much like magic. She remarks that the energy feels similar to hers. As they cross the hallway, they enter a large room where a statue stands before them. Jean wonders if this is the statue Raren mentioned. Looking at it, she speculates it might be an ancient temple. Kai, unsure, feels like he's seen the statue somewhere before. Suddenly, they hear the voice again, saying it is pleased to meet the children blessed by fate. They wonder where the voice is coming from. It reveals itself as the statue, telling them they don't need to be afraid, as it is currently powerless. Jean asks who it is. The statue explains that it comes from the world where the War of the 5 Races ended and has been waiting for someone to take Sid's place in this new world. Kai is surprised that it knows Sid, but the statue responds that it knows Sid even better than Kai does. Puzzled, Kai is asked to take a closer look, and as he does, he realizes that the statue resembles the figure seen in a portrait with Sid. He recognizes it as the prophetic god. The statue confirms his realization, stating that the humans called her Arsla Salaka, a praying god who could foresee the future. Jean asks what this means, and Kai explains that he had earlier told her about Sid, the one who defeated the 4 heroes and ended the War of the 5 Races. Sid had received a prophecy, which was why he was called a prophet. Arsla Salaka was the god who gave him that prophecy and the shining sword. Even Kai finds it hard to believe. He knew Sid existed, but he thought the prophetic god was merely a myth. Arsla says that humans have worshipped her for ages, and during the war between the 5 races, she had the code holder created to protect humanity. Kai then recalls the voice he heard when he first pulled out the code holder, realizing it was Arsla all along. She's pleased he remembers, and happy that in a world without side, it's Kai who holds the code holder. Jean asks Arsla what she wants from them, and Arsla responds that she has a prophecy for them. She explains that this is all she can offer them now, as she used all her power to create the code holder, which is why she couldn't stop the world reincarnation. Kai asks what the world reincarnation is, and Arsla admits she doesn't fully understand it either, but knows that history has been rewritten and Sid's presence erased, creating a false world. Jean finds it hard to believe, questioning if this means all the humans' efforts have been in vain. Arsla reassures her, saying that the opposite is true. Due to the world reincarnation, the world's fate was reversed, but the process is incomplete. Jean asks what a fully reversed world would look like, and Kai answers that humanity would have been extinct. Arsla agrees, but adds that humans survived because of her efforts. The humans are now turning the tide, making their struggle the only truth in this false world. Relieved, Jean listens as Arsla tells her she has a mission. To correct the world, Arsla asks Jean to take Sid's place and become humanity's new hero. Jean wonders why Arsla chose her, and the god explains that she has watched over the world for a long time, seeing how humans have suffered under the rule of the 4 races. Among the few qualified to replace Sid, Jean stands out. Arsla also acknowledges that Kai, who defeated the demon hero, is one of them, but his only qualification is his strength. Arsla reveals that Kai wasn't even supposed to be in this world, which is why Jean is the best fit. Jean asks what her next step is, and Arsla tells her nothing has changed. She must continue leading her subordinates in battle. She must defeat the heroes of the 4 races and the last riser, and only then will the world be restored. Kai asks if Arsla knows what the last riser is, but Arsla admits she doesn't, as this strange creature didn't exist in the original history. Jean then asks what will happen once they defeat the heroes and the last riser. Arsla explains that it depends on how much the world has been affected by the world reincarnation. No one can predict whether the world will return to its original state or continue in its current form after the humans' victory. For now, Arsla tells them to focus on winning the war. She expresses high expectations for both Kai and Rini, and urges them to go forth and become humanity's new heroes. As they leave, Kai asks Rini if something is bothering her. Rini replies that while she couldn't tell if the voice was dangerous, it gave her both comfort and unease. Kai assures her that since Arsla created the code holder, she is not humanity's enemy. Once outside, Rarin asks why they took so long. They apologize, explaining that they only found a strange stone statue. As they walk on, Rarin spots a winter sage fruit tree and asks Rini to collect some, as the fruit is known for its healing properties. Finally, Kai encourages Jean not to worry too much about her new title, promising to stay by her side until the end. He reassures her that they will end the war of the 5 races, and Jean agrees, realizing that the prophecy doesn't matter. They have to keep fighting. Upon hearing this, Kai remarks that Jean is the same in this world as she was in his old one. Jean, still struggling to believe that another world exists besides this one, asks him about their relationship in that world. Kai explains that they were colleagues and childhood friends. Curious, Jean asks if he would like to be friends with her in this world as well. Kai agrees, though he doesn't think it will change much between them. Jean notices that Kai seems to be the only one unfazed by the idea of being friends with her. Just then, Ryrin and Rini return with the fruits they had gathered. Later, as they travel by car, Ryrin makes juice for Kai from the fruits. Rin, concerned by the foul smell, warns Kai not to drink it, fearing it might be dangerous. Rarin assures them that it's safe, even drinking some to prove her point. only to spit it out immediately due to the awful taste. Raren comments that the worse something tastes, the better its healing properties, and serves some to Kai. Despite Rennie's advice, Kai drinks it, and Jean announces that they'll soon be crossing into the Yuluan Federation. She advises everyone to stay alert while Saki checks outside for signs of the enemy. Saki notices a strange triangular building, and from her description, Kai deduces it must be one of the graveyards. They stop to investigate, and Jean recalls that, in Kai's world, these were the buildings where the 4 races were imprisoned. Kai believes this is the graveyard where the spirit race was sealed, and Rennie suddenly alerts them that they are surrounded. Slimy creatures begin descending from the sky, and everyone prepares for battle. They fire at the slimy spirits, but the bullets have little effect. Jean orders a retreat into the vehicles, but Fei Lin continues fighting. With Kai supporting her, he tells her that the only way to defeat spirits is to burn their bodies, but they lack the necessary weapons. Just then, soldiers from the Yuluan Federation arrive, armed with incinerators, and they burn the spirits. As the remaining spirits combine into one, the Resistance Army's leader destroys it and asks if the Erda rebel army is all right. The leader, Bio Meng, greets Fei Lin, saying it's been a long time since they last met. He also greets Jean, who thanks him for the rescue. Bio Meng praises their efforts against the spirits, but as Fei Lin tries to leave, he stops her, reminding her he isn't finished talking. Knowing his habit of long-winded conversations, Fei Lin's response causes the Yuluan soldiers to laugh. Suddenly, Rennie warns that the spirits are still nearby, and they encase the group in a barrier made of their own bodies. The soldiers fire at it, but their attacks are ineffective. Kai tries firing one of his special bullets, but it's no use. Ryren mentions that they don't know how elven magic affects spirits, so she can't cast any spells yet. This gives Kai an idea. He tells Jean that he will clear a path and asks her to lead everyone through it in one go. They all get back into the cars, and Kai shoots the spirit barrier through the sunroof, creating an opening. It turns out he used the powerful bullets given to him by the dwarves, and he's amazed by their strength. Bio Meng, impressed, comments that Jean has an excellent subordinate, but Jean corrects him, saying Kai is her friend, not a subordinate. John then suggests they proceed with their strategy meeting, and Bio Meng agrees, though he asks to make a stop first. They head to a lake, where Bio Meng explains that they originally came to investigate this area, known as the Grand Arc Plains, which didn't have a lake before. Rennie interrupts, revealing that it's not a lake at all. It's a spirit. As the spirit stirs, it reveals itself to be Rikyu Jin Kyoko, the hero of the spirits, who declares that they are in her way. Kyoko fires a high-pressure blast of water at Kai, forcing him to leap aside, narrowly avoiding being obliterated in one strike. She then transforms the water into a massive wrecking ball, smashing one of the vehicles. In response, Kai goes on the offensive, slicing Kyoko in half with his sword. To ensure she stays down, Kai orders Balmung's soldiers to use all the firepower they have, and they proceed to torch Kyoko's upper body. Unfortunately, Kyoko absorbs the flames and effortlessly reforms her body. Taking a deep breath, Kai realizes she's about to unleash something powerful and quickly warns everyone to back off. Moments later, Kyoko sends a colossal wave of fire toward them, forcing Kai to use the code holder to block the attack and save his comrades. Surprisingly, despite never having met Kai before, Kyoko seems to recognize the code holder. It's especially odd because spirits aren't supposed to be able to speak. As Kyoko starts recalling memories, it triggers Last Riser's sensors. And now that it's aware of her contact with the code holder, it prepares to act. On the battlefield, Kai hears someone talking, but since spirits can't speak, he dismisses the thought that it was Kyoko. She interrupts, asking why he possesses the code holder, which is meant to belong to a specific human. Kai is still in disbelief that a spirit can talk, even if it's the hero of spirits. but his curiosity pushes him to ask how much she knows. He asks if she's referring to Sid. Kyoko wasn't sure before, but now that Kai mentions Sid's name, she remembers everything clearly, especially her deep hatred for Sid. She sees him as the enemy of all spirits. Yet she admits that Sid made her much wiser than she once was. Kyoko reveals that she learned to speak the human language to understand Sid's words as he sealed her away. He had spoken of reincarnation being only the beginning of a greater catastrophe. Kai has more questions, but as he looks at Kyoko, he notices Last Riser's portal opening behind her, right on cue. Last Riser emerges and grabs Kyoko's head. It prepares to execute the Zero Code, erasing Kyoko for uttering Sid's name. But Kyoko has dealt with Last Riser before and quickly breaks free from its grip, launching a counterattack. Realizing it won't be an easy fight, Last Riser decides to retreat. After Last Riser flees, Kyoko reforms her body and descends to the ground. Though she could continue battling the humans, she announces that she's done for the day. Balmung, suspicious of her sudden withdrawal, accuses her of trickery. Kyoko dismisses him, calling him foolish and proposing a ceasefire instead. Balmung retorts that she was the one who attacked first, but Kyoko explains it was a misunderstanding. She thought they were ambushing her while she was regenerating. Kai wonders what could have caused Kyoko to require so much time to regenerate. Kyoko explains that she had been fighting Wraithy earlier, and though Wraithy was tough, handling Last Riser had been much more challenging. She recalls Sid referring to Last Riser as a monster. Although many heroes seek the best for their own race, Last Riser stands apart from all, driven purely by hatred and posing a threat to every living being. Kyoko insists that they need to stop it. Balmung remains skeptical, but Jean assures him Kyoko speaks the truth. Last Riser is a far greater threat, having attacked humans, demons, and celestials alike. A ceasefire would benefit all races. Balmung hesitates, as he has spent so long fighting the spirits and still considers them the enemy. He struggles to accept the idea of suddenly coexisting with them. However, Jean explains that she has already brokered ceasefire agreements with both the demons and the celestials. While she doesn't forgive them for oppressing humanity, she believes that these non-aggression pacts will prevent further losses, and it's a wise move to accept the offer. Reluctantly, Balmung agrees to the truce with the spirits. With nothing left to do, Kyoko declares she's leaving. Before she departs, Kai asks where she's headed. Kyoko points to a distant black pyramid, explaining that she remembers the graveyard, the place where she first encountered Last Riser. Last Riser had appeared after Sid's disappearance, and the heroes had mixed reactions to it. Vanessa had looked down on it. Alfrea was repulsed by it, and Kyoko had been cautious. At the time, she hadn't cared much, but Wraithy had embraced it, and they've been working together ever since. Kai asks if Wraithy's motivation is to become stronger, but Kyoko doubts it. Wraithy is too proud to rely on anyone else's power, so there must be another reason beyond the race war. By now, Jean and the others are ready to head to the graveyard, and Kyoko asks Kai to lead them to the entrance since he's familiar with these structures. They arrive at a similar entrance to the one Kai found in the Urza Federation, and he leads them to the chamber where he first discovered the code holder. As Kai approaches the pedestal in the room, the code holder begins to react. Suddenly, he hears a recorded message from Sid, who apologizes for failing to protect Rin. Sid's message asks whoever holds the code holder now to finish what he could not. The code holder then projects a bright light onto the wall, opening a portal that immediately pulls Kai and the others inside. Before they know it, they find themselves back on the mysterious platform where Kai first found Rin. Both Balmung and Fallon are uneasy, feeling as though they're being led into a trap. They demand an explanation from Kai, but he's just as clueless. Though he's been teleported here before, he never had the chance to uncover the place's secrets. Recognizing that standing still won't provide answers, Kyoko begins walking in the direction where she senses a massive energy source. The group follows her lead and soon arrives at another platform where they discover something unexpected: a statue of Alfrea. Upon closer inspection, Raren detects magic emanating from it and concludes that this is the real Alfrea, trapped under some sort of petrification spell. Raren believes she can break the spell if given enough time to analyze it, but Balmung, still unconvinced about the ceasefire, sees this as an opportunity to destroy the hero of the Celestials. Raren, unwilling to let him proceed, holds him back. Meanwhile, Kyoko examines Alfrea and realizes that this isn't an ordinary petrification spell. The stone-like appearance is only superficial. It's more like Alfrea has been frozen in place, likely due to the Zero Code's influence. As if things weren't tense enough, Last Riser suddenly appears, detecting intruders and activating a defense protocol to protect Alfrea's sealed body. After a quick scan, Last Riser identifies 3 individuals as having the forbidden connection to Side, marking them for immediate destruction. The others, deemed irrelevant, are teleported away. Rin is worried about the group that was teleported, but Kai reassures her that since Last Riser excluded them from its destruction protocol, they were probably sent back to the graveyard. Reflecting on Last Riser's words, Kai realizes that it's targeting people with memories of Sid, seeing them as obstacles to its plans. For now, their only option is to fight back. Jean and the others, having been sent to a field outside the graveyard, start making their way back, determined to re-enter the portal and assist Kai. Balmung questions whether Jean really stands a chance against Last Riser. While Jean isn't sure, she has a last resort. Raren realizes that Jean plans to use the full power of her elven gear, but warns that it will significantly shorten her lifespan. Unfortunately, the portal to the other dimension is already closed, so getting back isn't currently possible. Frustrated, Jean asks what they should do next, and Bryn suggests they come up with a plan first. Balmung agrees, adding that they should only return once they are fully prepared to face the threat. Raren, meanwhile, has something in mind, but she'll need help to make it work. Back in the other dimension, Kai, Rin, and Kyoko continue battling Last Riser. Kyoko fires a blast of water at the creature, but Last Riser uses the Zero Code to erase it. Kai tries to strike while Last Riser is distracted, but his attacks don't seem to inflict much damage. While Kai keeps Last Riser busy, Kyoko approaches Rin and asks why she isn't helping. Rin admits she wants to fight, but is too terrified to move. With no time to convince her otherwise, Kyoko grabs Rin's hand to absorb some of her magic. Once Kai manages to create some distance between himself and Last Riser, Kyoko encases the creature in ice and shatters it into pieces. Kai is astonished by her power, but to his dismay, Last Riser quickly regenerates from a portal. Puzzled, Kai recalls that Last Riser had previously retreated when facing resistance from Kyoko and Vanessa. This leads them to believe that Last Riser's ability to regenerate is tied to this dimension. Kyoko asks if there's a way to escape, and Kai recalls using the code holder to slash open the dimension last time. Though Kyoko dislikes relying on the code holder, it seems to be their only option. Before leaving, Kyoko grabs Alfrea, causing Last Riser to panic, as Alfrea is apparently of high importance. With Last Riser now on high alert, Kyoko plans to use Alfrea to lure the creature outside. They make a run for it, with Kyoko launching fire at Last Riser to slow it down. However, the creature deflects the fire back at them. Kai uses the code holder to block the attack, and in doing so, accidentally creates a tear in the dimension. Without hesitation, they all jump through the hole, with Last Riser frantically chasing after them. Once back in the real world, Kai weakens Last Riser with the code holder, and Kyoko unleashes a powerful lightning attack, reducing the creature to a pile of ashes. Meanwhile, Raren is hard at work in a makeshift forge, determined to upgrade the human weapons, which are ineffective against Last Riser. As she toils away, A loud explosion is heard coming from the graveyard, leaving everyone wondering what's happening. After Last Riser is reduced to ash, Kai and Kyoko believe the battle is finally over. However, to their horror, a tendril emerges from the portal. Raren, far away, is struck by an overwhelming sense of dread as she feels an immense surge of magical energy. This is Last Riser's second form, far more powerful than before, and it's the one that imprisoned Rin in that dimension before Kai found her. It declares that it will now erase them from existence.